Yo, we're back with another episode. The election is coming up in less than 4 days. Actually, this election has been going on for the past couple of weeks. In this episode, I'm going to go through my election predictions of what I think the outcome is going to be. To our first and last time viewers, this is a Perfect Political Storm podcast. Give this video a like and subscribe to this YouTube channel, as we'll be giving you a unique view on politics. Go to our website, perfectpoliticalstorm.com, where you'll see some of our articles we've uploaded. So we're just going to get started, and we're going to get into this, fill out the states that we confidently think that the Democrats are going to do well in, or they haven't changed seats in a very long time. So we'll start by Washington, Oregon, California, Colorado, New Mexico, Illinois, Virginia, DC, Maryland, Delaware, New Jersey, Connecticut, Rhode Island, Massachusetts, New Hampshire, Vermont, New York State, which other ones? And for the Republicans, if there's any, I'll come back and do them. For the Republicans, we think it's Idaho, North Dakota, South Dakota, Wyoming, Utah, Kansas, Oklahoma, Louisiana, Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Tennessee, Kentucky, West Virginia, and that's it. Everything else we're going to talk about and run through it because some of them might be close. I might just give a background to it. For the Democrats also is Hawaii. And so let's just go through them now. Let's start off with Montana. It's been consistently voting Republican since except the 92 election for Bill Clinton. Recent polling show Trump has a lead, but it's been around 9% the gap. So we do think it's going to go to Donald Trump. Other places have been using the likely, the leans. I'll only be using that when I truly think it's going to be close and I'm making my prediction, because some places have used this and left really close ones as blank, as just toss up. So I don't want to do that. I'm going to make sure I try to predict every single one. So another one is Nevada for the Democrats. Been voting both Democrat and Republican, but since Obama it's been trending Democratic. However, in 2016 it was very close to Hillary Clinton. It's going to be tight, but it seems like it's favoring Biden, but I'll put that in a bit of a light blue because it seems like it's been a tight race. Alaska has been voting Republican since the 70s. Again, polling has shown Biden is doing better than Clinton, and that's the same trend for some of these states, but we do think that Trump's going to get it. Missouri is the same one. It's quite Republican. It was a blowout for Donald Trump 2016, but polling, it's been all over the place, but we can be confident that Trump will pick this up. And that goes the same thing for Indiana. They voted for Obama in 2008, but it looks like Biden's going to do a lot better than Hillary Clinton. But still, Trump is going to take it. So now we're going to move on to the other states, which some are swing states, some are states that were very important in 2016. Some have a different voting pattern. So all of the rest of them, we're going to talk quite in depth about them. First, we'll start off with Ohio. Ohio is a classic swing state. It's always been highly contested every year. Voted Obama twice narrowly. Trump won in 2016 by 8 points. Recent polling by 538 is showing that there's been a change in the polls the whole entire way through the race. A Quinnipiac poll showing Biden up by 5 points, but a Fox poll showing Trump up by 2 or 3 points. Looking at the polls taken recently as a whole, the trend is showing a narrow Trump hold. So I do think that we can give Trump the narrowest of narrowest margins. It's really been close all the way through. So I'm going to put it in a very light red. The next state we're going to talk about is Michigan, which is over here. It's a Rust Belt state. It has a very big automotive sector. It's been voted Democratic since 1992. Until Trump won in 2016 with a 0.2% victory, which is a very, very small margin, but Trump eked it out, and that was part of his election campaign. Michigan played a very important place in that. The polls have been showing Biden has led throughout the whole way in this race. Recent polls are even showing an up to 10-point lead. This is a confident Biden victory, and it's just interesting that something that was such a small margin in 2016 has actually been a confident Biden victory in our predictions. Wisconsin, its neighboring state, also has been voting Democrat since '88 until Trump narrowly won by just a point. So that's the same type of margin, very small margins. The beginning of this race has been very close, but it's widening. Seemingly following the coronavirus pandemic, Biden has kept his lead. An Emerson poll showing a 7-point victory. ABC Washington Post poll showing a 17-point victory. To me, that might seem a bit too large. It might seem a bit overexcited, but I do think it'll be a confident Biden win. And again, 2 states which played very important roles in the 2016 election seems to be comfortably going to Biden. The next state we're going to talk about is Minnesota, which is here. It's a state that Amy Klobuchar's from. She ran in the Democratic primary. We know she's from that state because she mentioned it every single time. So Minnesota has been voting Democrats for a long time, but 2016, it also voted for Hillary Clinton, but just by a very narrow margin. Biden has led the whole way through this race as well. Recent polling showing double-digit margins. I don't think it will reach double digits, but I do think it will be a confident Biden win as well. So already Biden's at 255 votes, whilst Republicans are at 130 electoral college votes. So already Biden only needs about less than 20 votes. Wow, my maths is not going right now. 15 electoral college votes and Biden will clinch it. So the next state we're going to talk about also had a very big part to play in 2016. These 3 states here had a very big part to play. This is Pennsylvania. It's been voting Democrat since 1992 until Trump in 2016. And again, the margins were very small by less than a point, which Trump was able to beat Hillary Clinton. The polls are showing, the polls were tight in the beginning, but Biden was leading the majority of the way, but the polls are showing that Trump is coming back. He's pulling a last-minute attempt, and that's what the trend is being throughout all of these races, that Trump is coming back last minute and really going in hard and getting people out. Trump held a rally in Pennsylvania recently. There's been a lot of controversy. There's been a recent shooting of a black man in the past couple of days. The communities, for example, in Philadelphia, its capital, has been in unrest. There's also another storm brewing with some of the postal votes, which have been happening over the past couple of days, have gone missing. People can't account for the whereabouts of them, and I think this will disproportionately affect the Democrats because they have been doing more mail-in ballots than the Republicans. Republicans do tend to show up on the day, and judging by the such small margins last time, just a point, those votes need to be accounted for, or else the Democrats could lose this. So it'll be very interesting to see. However, the polling does seem like it is in favor of Biden. For me, I would put this as a too close to call. However, we're not going to do that here. We want to get all the predictions in because at the end of the day, on election night, there's going to be a winner. So I'm going to give the slightest of a margin to Biden. Another issue that's been going on here actually is the fracking issue that came up in the debates as well, energy policy. So it's kind of telling me to go for Trump, especially with the postal vote issue, that Trump might tip this, but the polls have been showing in favor for Biden. So I'm just going to put this in the lightest possible blues because, as I said, it's going to be very close. The next state over here is Iowa. It's the first state to vote in the Iowa caucus. The voting record has been all over the place. It's voted for Bush, it's voted for Obama, it's voted for Trump. All the races have been close. The polls also have been all over the place, but Trump has led the majority of the time during this election. In October, it looks like Biden has caught up, but the recent Quinnipiac polling showing a point lead for Trump, and I'll show some more recent polls that we're seeing now as well. Early voting has been consistent with the Democrats doing more, but that's just general trend around the whole of the United States. Big issues seem to be over trade and agriculture. the China trade war, which has played a big part in this state. Some people in the state agree with Trump in theory, but taking on China has decimated some of the communities and hit them very hard. I do, however, think Trump might narrowly eke this one out. It also should be too close to call, but I have a feeling Trump will get Iowa. So I put that in my less confident, in my likely red. But I think I'm less confident in Pennsylvania than these two. That's why the shade is different. So the next one we're going to talk about is Nebraska over here and Maine. I left these two here because they have an interesting voting system. They give votes based on statewide and also by the district. In Nebraska, over here, it's seeming like statewide they're gonna go Republican. Statewide they're gonna go Republican. Also in their first and third district. Their second district has been trending blue for a while, so I'm going to give this a light prediction of Biden. And in Maine also, this is interesting as well, we have the Republican Senator Susan Collins, who's fighting for a political career. She's been, a quite moderate. I think she voted down one of the healthcare bills. She's really just trying to get re-elected, but she might get booted out in the Senate race. With Maine, it's been trending Democratic, so statewide it will be Democratic in their first district also. But in their second district, it's more rural communities and it's tended to go conservative. However, in the 2018 midterms, with the blue wave, they did elect Democrats. So we do think that I'll put it in the lightest of blues because it could go blue the second district. So with the remaining states, all these remaining states are very, very interesting, and I'll spend a bit more time talking about them. First of all, we can see already that Biden has crossed the 270 threshold and is eligible to be the president. So there's different scenarios how all of this can go. But the way I've done it is either you can have Biden having a massive victory and literally all these close states, him winning. Trump, I think the only way he'll win, it will be literally it'll be very close. It'll be close like 2016. We know already Biden is most likely going to win the popular vote because of the demographics in the United States. So I'm trying to be somewhere in between the two. I'm not sure it will be a massive Biden blowout because I know the polls genuinely overstate Democrats. So I'm trying to find a medium, and with the rest of these, we'll see the final results of what we get. So first off, we're going to do with North and South Carolina and see what could happen here. So we'll start off with South Carolina. South Carolina has been Republican since 1976. Trump's continuing the trend by winning more than 10 points in 2016. Trump's been leading the whole entire way in this race. Biden has closed the gap, but it by making it less than a 10-point deficit, but it does seem like Trump will take this state. We're pretty confident in that. The reason why I left this one to last is because the Senator Lindsey Graham is here fighting for a Senate seat. He's in a very tight race with his opponent, Jamie Harrison. Lindsey Graham is quite notoriously known in the Republican Party, and polls have shown that it's been very, very close, and this would be a major upset if Lindsey Graham does get unseated. But I do think that would be a massive task. His opponent, Jamie Harrison, has broken all the fundraising records. Even from in the 2018 midterms in Texas, we had another race with Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz, and Beto raised an insane amount of money, while Jamie Harrison has broken his record and raised an insane amount of money in the last quarter. So we'll see. That's the race, the Senate race that we should look out for. But I do think in the presidential, Trump will take it. So moving on to North Carolina now. Actually, before we go to North Carolina, let's go to Arizona over here. It's generally been Republican, except in the 96 Clinton re-election campaign. Demographics are a big part to play in here. It's known as a retirement state where all the people go to retire, but obviously before we would think that would be a good thing for the Republicans, but it seems like that's not a good thing because of the coronavirus pandemic and how Trump's handled it. It's not been in the favor. Trump is bleeding support from seniors. Also, being support from suburban white women who aren't impressed by Trump and how he's behaved in the last couple of years. Looking at the polls, in March Trump was leading, but since then Biden has been leading the whole entire way. It's been a small margin, still only 4 to 5 points. Some polls recently are showing a Trump win, but I do think that this state is going to go to Biden. I do think the state is going to go to Biden. Everything, the trends that it's been going through, everything is telling me that Biden will take this. So I put that in a light blue, same as this, more confident than Pennsylvania that it will go blue. The next one we should talk about is North Carolina. So North Carolina is generally voted Republican. It voted for Obama in 2008. It's been close since. Trump only won this by 3 points. The polls have shown a narrow lead throughout the race to Biden by just a couple of points. But when I see that, it gets me nervous. I still think, anything can happen. Looking at the early voting stats, it seems evenly divided by Republican and Democrats. More Democrats have been doing mail-in ballots, but that's general trend as we mentioned before. The Trump and Pence team has visited there 12 times, and this is an important part of Trump's re-election campaign. Obviously, the numbers aren't looking too good here, but this won't be the order that it will come through on election night. So there'll be some sort of drama by which results come in first. Precaution that the race might not be over by election night, because some states are allowing people to mail in ballot up until election day, so that those will be counted in the following days. So even on election night, it might not show the full picture, but we'll just talk about each state and how and what it can give into the race. So it's had recent local controversy with there's been an early vote in March which has been broken up by the police. But it looks like there'll be very high turnout in this state, and very high turnout does favor the Democrats in general. So I think it's been close, but I think Biden could get this as well. And I put this in the lightest of blues as well, because we don't know how it's going to go. Because it's generally been voting Republican, so it'll be a big deal for Biden to pick this up. The next state we're going to talk about is Georgia down here. Has voted Republican since 91, but did vote Democrat for Jimmy Carter in the 70s and 80s. Trump carried this by less than 5 points, and now it's currently a toss-up. The polls have been all over the place. It's been a tight race. Both Trump and Biden have taken the lead in different moments in the race. Polls are showing with Biden with the most recent lead, but the margins are so narrow, they're within the margin of error, so really anything can happen. Obviously in here you have a lot of black people. Atlanta, Georgia is a city which is known around the world for its rappers, its culture, for the strip clubs, but that's not what this video is about right now. But Atlanta, Georgia is a very well-known place. Black voters could be an important factor in this election. So looking at the stats, I've read a stat that said more than 26% of voters are new or infrequent voters, which is very interesting, especially among the black community. The fact that people getting out people who don't normally vote shows to me that there's going to be a very big turnout, and again I think that favors the Democrats. In this, and I think Georgia could go blue. And I, again, putting it in the lightest of blue because I'm not too sure, but I do think Biden can get this victory out. We're already at 322, so this is a Biden victory. We're just going to see how all these states are going to end up. So let's go to the big state over here. Loads of electoral votes. Texas is a Republican state, only voted Democrat in 1976 with Jimmy Carter. That's a lot of these red states. So one of the only times I've voted Democrats is either Jimmy Carter or Bill Clinton. But again, there haven't been many Democratic presidents, so I guess that would make sense. In 2018 midterm, as I mentioned before, there was a tight race between Beto O'Rourke and Ted Cruz. Turnout was very high there as well. Looking at the race, Trump seems to hold a very narrow lead towards the later stages of the race, but it's been very close. The margins, again, it's within the margin of error. Just a couple of stats: 9.7 million people have voted already. That's a lot of people. 57.3% of registered voters have cast their ballot, which is close to the 59.4% that in total that voted in 2016. That means that no matter what, Texas is going to break their turnout records. Massive mass of people are turning out to vote in this election. It hasn't surpassed the 60% turnout since the 90s, and some people are saying it could reach 70% turnout, and that would be astonishing. That would be a really, really big victory. Biden clinching this would be absolutely historic, turning Texas blue. The demographics have been trending that way, but for him to actually clinch it will be a massive victory. But I do think that Trump might just still keep it. I think the Republicans have got a really big problem on their hands, because a lot of these states, even if I put them in dark red, they have been trending Democratic for the past couple of years. They've still been Republican, but they've been trending in the way of the Democrats. So even if Trump gets this, which I think he will, put it in the lightest of reds, it's going to be very close, but it's been trending blue. I don't think they can wait another election, because the demographics have been in the Democrats' favor. So I think the Republicans losing this election, they're going to have to do a serious rebranding job. They're going to get punished really hard in the polls for embracing Trump. But with that said, let's move on to the last state, Florida. Very unique state, one of a kind. I left this one to last. You know, we've been seeing loads of stuff with the coronavirus. They've had one of the highest cases, but yeah, they opened up. Even at the beginning of the pandemic, people were going on spring break. People were out partying on the beach. Nobody was going back outside. No one was wearing masks. The 2018 midterms, the last election we had, was the gubernatorial race between Andrew Gillum and Ross DeSantis. That was in itself a spectacle. So there's been a lot going on in Florida. Florida's voted for Obama twice, but very narrowly. All the races have been very narrow, and Trump won this narrowly as well. It's a true swing state. At the start of the race, it was really tight. As the race unfolded, Biden has extended his lead in the past couple of months, but it has tightened up again. In the height of the campaign, Biden was leading by 6 points, but recent polling is showing one candidate up by 3, another candidate up by 2. It's a true toss-up state, and Trump winning this state, depending on the order this goes in election night, will put pressure on Biden to win all of these states here. But we think it's going to go Biden's way, but it'll put pressure for Biden to flip things if Trump does win Florida, because it's got a lot of electoral college votes here. We've recently seen that Trump has been trying to flood the airways with ads in Spanish showing him wearing masks. Biden has also been flooding the airways with election ads as well. He's been outspending Trump. In the last 15 days, he spent $16 million. But Obama has also come to campaign in Florida, so this is clearly somewhere where they want to pick up, just at least for safety. The Democrats leading in mail-in ballots, but again, we've seen it in the trend everywhere. I think it's going to be very tight. I'm going to give this to Biden just because I feel, and again, in the lightest of blue, because I'm not confident. I just feel that, you know, some of these states, if you look at it in context, some of these states, if you want them to flip, I think they're all going to flip together. It's not going to be by itself. However, just know that if Texas goes blue, all of these ones that I've not sure predicted as Democrats will definitely go Democrat. I think that will just be the one where you would think, okay, Biden has really come out and really done a lot. So this is my final results. Biden getting 351 electoral votes, Republicans getting 187, which is really a beating from the Democrats. I hope you guys have liked this video. Go onto our website. I've written a couple of articles on there. We've talked about Lindsey Graham Senate seat. I'm gonna put this into writing. We're gonna talk about some voter issues that's been going on, focusing on different states individually. This was just a quick overview. Go to our Twitter page as well. We've got all the content. I'm gonna be way more active on there as well. But this has been a perfect political storm, and I tell you, a storm is definitely brewing. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe to this video, and we will catch you next time.